Hi, I'm Gable Collings, practical astrologer at Within Reach Astrology, and in this video I will be giving you a brief overview of what we can expect astrologically from 2025 based on the movements of the outer planets. The reason I'm focusing on the outer planets in this video, the outer planets being Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, is because the outer planets move a lot slower and can give us a better sense of what to expect on a global scale and in the long term. Now, 2025 is set to be quite an interesting year astrologically because almost all of the outer planets are changing signs. And this is really important because, as I said, the outer planets move slower than like Mercury or even Jupiter. Since March 2023, Saturn has been in Pisces, encouraging us to find more balance between the physical and material and the spiritual and emotional. It can also bring up escapist tendencies or deep-seated fears to be worked through and released. On May 26th, Saturn will move into Aries for the first time in this century. But in September, Saturn will be moving back into Pisces for a couple of more months. So we're wrapping up Saturn's time in Pisces, but there are still several months left. So those themes of balance between the material and the spiritual are going to continue to be revisited, but let's talk a little bit about what we can expect from Saturn's time in Aries. So Saturn will be in Aries from May 26th to September 1st in 2025. And it's always really important when any planet moves from Pisces into Aries, but especially an outer planet, because that transition represents the transition from the old into the new. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac and always represents a new beginning and this fresh start energy. Saturn's emphasis on discipline, focus, and limitations combined with Aries' drive and motivation, action-oriented, that combination really helps with getting things done, focusing on what is going to move the needle for you and just getting it done. So one of the themes for Saturn and Aries is going to be focused productivity. Another one is going to be self-identity. Saturn is all about asking the hard questions and encouraging us, it can sometimes feel like forcing us, to see things from a different perspective. And Aries represents ourselves, how we see ourselves and our concept of self. So this can bring up interesting questions about our self-worth and our self-identity. How do you see yourself? How do you show up in the world? Another aspect of Saturn and Aries is the balance between taking care of others, being compassionate for others, and balancing that out with self-confidence, self-belief, and independence. So finding that middle ground, that fine line between the two where you're caring too much for other people and not worrying enough about yourself, and the line between that and caring solely about yourself and disregarding other people's needs and desires. There is a line between them, and Saturn in Aries is encouraging us to find that line and walk it. Since 2018, Uranus has been moving through Taurus, but on July 8th, 2025, it will move into Gemini, and it will stay there until November 8th. So kind of the same thing with Saturn. This is the wrap-up of Uranus's time in Taurus, but not the official end. Uranus will be going back into Taurus at the end of 2025 for a few more months, but it will settle officially into Gemini in 2026. Uranus is the planet of the unexpected. It represents unpredictable, unstable energy that leads to massive changes, usually on a global scale. Uranus in Taurus has particularly affected agriculture, the weather, and stock markets. And it's also important to note that Uranus is the planet of innovation, and it can lead to new discoveries, new technology, and new ways of doing things in whatever sign that it's in. So Uranus and Taurus can encourage new ways of looking at farming, climate change, and economical systems throughout the world. When Uranus moves into Gemini, it will shift its focus to things like the education systems in our world, the way that we communicate with each other, social media, virtual reality, and also the way that we get around. This includes when we go into stores and buy things, so we might see an increase in digital currencies being used, there might be an increase in AI, virtual reality, self-driving cars, things like that, all have very Uranus and Gemini energy to them. This doesn't mean that our school systems, the way we transfer money, and the way we talk to each other is going to be completely radicalized in the next year. Uranus moves slowly, so its effects on the world can take a while to notice and to properly come to fruition. Next, we have Neptune. Neptune has been moving through Pisces for the past couple of years. But on March 31st, Neptune will move into Aries, where it will be staying until October of 2025. Once again, this is the first time that Neptune will be leaving its current sign in the past couple of years, but it's going to go back into Pisces at the end of 2025 for a few more months. So once again, it's wrapping up its time in Pisces, but not completely done with it just yet. And just like with Saturn, Neptune is moving into Aries, so we have this element of fresh start, new beginning energy again, the beginning of something new on a huge global scale. Neptune moves slower than Saturn or Uranus, so it's even more significant that it's changing signs this year. In Pisces, Neptune highlighted themes such as compassion, spirituality, imagination, creativity, but also escapism, and interestingly enough, Neptune and Pisces have some connections to viruses and diseases that spread, essentially, as well as medications and vaccinations. So that's something that's really interesting to note in retrospect, looking back at the past few years that Neptune has been in Pisces, because those themes have very much been in the public eye. And as Neptune moves into Aries, things are about to get really interesting, because I've done a lot of research about what to expect about these planets changing signs, and almost every single time that Neptune has been in Aries in the past, there has been some sort of major revolution or civil war in at least one country or one area of the world. Something really significant. And it often has to do with breaking away from religion. One example of this is one time that Neptune was in Aries was when Charles Darwin's theory of evolution was getting out there in the world. And people were divided on their beliefs about how humans came to be. There was a pull to discover more about the scientific reasons behind it and put more belief behind those, but there was also the pull to cling to the old and just continue on with the religious beliefs. That is a common theme that you can see if you look at the past times that Neptune has been in Aries. Essentially, the hallmarks of Neptune in Aries in the past have been rebellions and revolutions, but also groundbreaking discoveries that challenge the status quo and the belief of the collective. What everyone has believed to be true about our world is suddenly being challenged. And that causes a divide amongst the people of what are you going to believe? Are you going to lean into these new ideas and see where they'll take you, or are you going to cling to the old beliefs because that's just the way things have always been, and until this point, that's how you believed they were? And lastly, we have Pluto, which is going to spend its first full year in Aquarius since the 1700s in 2025. Pluto has finally completed its transition between Capricorn and Aquarius, and it is now fully in Aquarius as of filming this. So as of November 2024, Pluto is officially in Aquarius until 2043. So we are settled in to the new Aquarian era. And here are a few notes about what that means for the collective. Pluto in Aquarius brings the power back to the people. Instead of giving so much power to major corporations and government leaders, there's more power given to individuals and especially to marginalized groups. Aquarius is known for its focus on social justice and on technological developments. So this also furthers the Uranus in Gemini energy that's encouraging developments in virtual reality, digital currency, and AI. Pluto in Aquarius is also encouraging these things. Some technological innovations that are going to affect the way that we live. And this social justice focus, I think we've already been seeing themes of this in the last few times that Pluto has been visiting Aquarius as it's making this transition into the sign. We've been noticing a bit more of that in the collective, or at least I have, of more of a focus on what's good for the people. This humanitarian focus. What would promote inclusivity and equality is what Pluto in Aquarius is more likely to go towards. But on the dark side, because it does have a dark side, and I don't hear this talked about nearly enough, that Pluto in Aquarius can also lead to a lack of freedom of speech. A lot of people are saying that Aquarius means more freedom, and in a way it does, because it is more likely to give a voice to marginalized groups and people who have been repressed. But at the same time, Aquarius is a fixed air sign. And just the symbolism of that alone, fixed air combined, means limited speech. That's one way that it can manifest. Limited communication. Limited expression. So what's actually most likely to happen is not that everyone gets freedom of speech, but instead an increase in cancel culture, where certain groups, most likely the ones that have been repressed or marginalized in the past, will be given more of a spotlight, more freedoms, more attention, and that's great for them, but that could mean not so great things for the majorities and the people who are the people, corporations, and groups that have been getting more attention during Pluto's time in Capricorn. So it's definitely a shift in power dynamics on a global scale, and that will be very interesting to see how that plays out over the next several years. Over a decade we have of Pluto in Aquarius. So, just to summarize, what we've got going on in 2025 is a lot of fundamental changes as these outer planets are changing signs. That represents fundamental changes on a global scale. We have Saturn and Neptune moving from Pisces into Aries, representing this new beginning energy, ushering in a new era, inviting in new ideas, starting a new cycle. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius, so we have this backdrop of Aquarian energy. That's just the vibe of the collective at its core, is whatever sign that Pluto is in. So we've got an Aquarius, like watercolor wash over everything, and Uranus moving into Gemini, supporting these Aquarian ideals to a certain degree. It's also important to note that Gemini and Aquarius are both air signs, so what they share in common is this focus on technology, communication, connecting with other people. They share that in common. So those themes are going to be especially highlighted specifically this year. So there's your overview of the outer planet movements of 2025 and what that might mean for the collective and the world around us. But if you want a little bit more of a personalized forecast for the year ahead, I recommend my 2025 Planetary Guidebook. This fairly small book, it's less than 100 pages, walks you through every single astrological event of 2025 that has a significant influence. So you'll notice that the movements of Venus are not noted in this book, or small transits that only last a day or two. But this gets into more detail, and if you give it a quick read, you'll be fully prepared for the year ahead and all the major events that are happening. At the front, there's a 2025 astrological overview which goes over the outer planets like I've mentioned here, but also giving some attention to Jupiter and the planetary retrogrades that will be at the beginning of the year. There are pages to take notes every single month that is listed in this book. So I'm just going to give you a preview of what it looks like inside. We have Mars, Uranus direct, Jupiter direct, lots of pages for notes. And this is great this will really help you plan your year in alignment with the astrological events, which makes life just 10 times easier. Another really special thing about this book is that at the very beginning you'll find this QR code, which gives you the option to sign up for email reminders throughout the year so that you're not just buying this book, looking at it a couple of times at the beginning of the year, and then forgetting about it. You'll get emails when there is an astrological event that is listed in this book so that you can check it and learn how you can prepare and align your life with whatever's happening globally. So this goes into quite a bit of depth about astrological events that I won't be posting about anywhere else for months to come. So you'll know when Mercury is going retrograde next, you'll know what the Saturn-Uranus sextile means and what you can expect from that. So this is a really powerful book, and I highly recommend that you get a copy. I will leave a link in the description below to get your copy on Amazon for $25 and a link to get a digital ebook copy, which is the exact same thing. It's just a printable PDF and without the note pages for only $12. I have designed it for people like you who get overwhelmed by all the astrological information out there. What's important, what's not, what's happening when. This book has all the details, including the dates of when each astrological event is happening. So you don't have to keep it all in your head, you can just refer to your handy guidebook. So I'm Gabriel Collings, and I hope this video was helpful to you and that you took some notes because this was a lot of in-depth information. Thank you for watching. If you want more astrological updates like this, be sure to subscribe because I share my regular astrological update posts here on YouTube as well, but you can also check me out on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful and successful and magical 2025.